Some bunnies with a bazooka dunk.
Way downtown. Bang! Bang!
Mama, there goes that man.
Yo, welcome to a tribe called Swish. This is your boy, B. Moore. Episode 15, solo Dolo for the day. Josh and Ken will probably join me next week where we talk about Game 7 of the finals and the upcoming NBA draft. But for this Friday, you're left with me, and I think that's not too bad. So we're going to talk about that Game 6 blowout that happened last night where the Thunder failed to show up. We're going to talk about what does it mean for a small market team to win a championship. And lastly, to close it out, we're going to talk about the Clipse because we need to. I have an Outkast shirt on, but the Clipse is still one of my favorite rap groups of all time. So let's get it started. This Game 7 blowout, man, what did we learn? We learned, as always, and I said on this podcast before, the Thunder will trick off a game or two in the series. We saw it against Denver. We saw it against Minnesota. They just come in the game and they're just not aggressive. They play right into the jaws of the defense, and they've done this throughout the whole playoffs. That's not to say that the Pacers didn't play exceptionally well. The fact that Tyrese Halliburton came out and played that well with a strained calf is amazing. If they somehow win a championship, this will be built upon a mythical, legendary status for him. So it might not make him to a superstar, but the stories will be beyond belief. We have to give a shout out to, this Pacers team, unexpectedly really good in this playoffs. Like I said before in previous episodes, I didn't watch a lot of them during the regular season because they didn't look like they played well. And then I didn't really tune in that deep to that matchup against the Cavs because I thought the Cavs were going to get them at 5, and boy, was I wrong. The Pacers have just played ball. They're Nesmith, Nembhard, they've made key buckets. Mathurin has had a big game in the finals. Miles Turner is starting to look like himself, and Halliburton has done just enough to keep him competitive. But I think what we have to understand with Halliburton is that he is not going to be that 30-point guy. And the thing is, they don't need him to be that. He's not going to be a 30-point, 12-assist player. They don't need him. They need him to be like 15-8, 15-9. Or really, actually, as the stats say, they need him to be like 20 to get at least 20 points normally because they're undefeated when he gets 20 points. But that's kind of what they need from him. Past that dump that Pascal Siakam did over Jalen Williams, that is going into top 5 plays of all time in the NBA Finals. That was crazy. That might be a prison of the moment type thing, but Jalen Williams jumped, and that was made it look even more ugly. And then the slow motion replay that we've seen from the Phantom Cam just makes it look just absolutely nasty. Look, Game 7, it's hard for me to not trust Rick Carlisle. For those who are too young to remember, Rick Carlisle took an upstart Maverick team. They had an aging superstar in Dirk at that time. He was probably at the end of his prime, but he took that team and they beat the Heatles, as they were called, LeBron, Bosh, and Wade. So Rick Carlisle isn't used to taking on juggernauts. He's perfectly fine being the Daniel and against the Goliath. Woo, back-to-back cliches. I need to avoid that. That was ugly. All right. Anyway, with that said, let's keep it moving. Let's look at the Thunder side of the ball. I don't know. I was talking to my barber today. I got a haircut. You can't tell. Kind of fresh and clean a little bit. And he was talking about how great Jalen Williams has played. And I told him that when I watched the games, Jalen Williams hasn't done, except the 40 ball, hasn't done much to impress me. He's shooting 44% roughly, maybe probably 43, 42% now after last night's game from the field. Yes, he is able to get to the bucket and he's getting his free throws, and that's how he's getting his points. But his jump shot has been broken. Absolutely broken. Like last night, he went 0 for 4 from three-point land, and then he shot like 20% from three-point land in the finals. So his jump shot is awful. And people were trying to elevate him to this Scottie Pippen status, like because he dropped a 40 ball. And listen, that performance, amazing, but he has been inconsistent. His inconsistency is the reason why this is going 7 games. Jalen Williams is supposed to be the Robin to Shea's Batman, and he's been getting a lot of empty calories. Yes, again, I think he's averaging 24, 25 points in the playoffs, but are you feeling them? Is he imposing his will as a second guy? He's not. I felt in that game 5 victory, I felt Caruso way more than I felt Jalen Williams. And then last night, we had a chance to kind of follow up a 40-point game where no one expects him to have back-to-back 40 balls. But to come out and play like that, you can't do that. You can't have that. And look, he's not the only one that deserves blame. Lou Dort didn't shoot. I feel like I'm not sure how many shots Lou Dort actually took last night because I don't remember him shooting. Lou Dort not really shooting. Chet being passive, especially after Miles Turner blocked that three-pointer. You got Caruso who didn't score. You got all these key pieces who are important to the team. We don't need them all to hit 12, 15 points. But Lou Dort hitting 2 first-half threes, important. Caruso making steals, getting 4 to 6 points. Sometimes even 10, important. All these things have to happen because all these things create space for Shea to do his job. If nobody else is a threat, then the defense is keying on Shea. And as great as Shea is, and great as he's played in these playoffs, you can't have a set of, you can't have 10 eyes on you at all times because they know nobody else can hit a shot. And that's what happened last night. And so kudos to the Pacers. Just absolute kudos to this team. They played well, just a bunch of fighters. And this has been probably the best finals since, I don't know, maybe I don't have to think about that because this has been so competitive and so engaging and so interesting. This great basketball. I don't want to. The Warriors Celtics finals, that was cool. Definitely not the bubble finals. I have to think about that. But this is, my first thing thinking of that all the way back to 2016. But I think we've had some good finals since then. But this has been, Phoenix Milwaukee was good. That was a good finals. So probably the best finals since Phoenix Milwaukee. So just a few years ago. So not as bad as it seemed at first. But I'm excited for Game 7. Again, nothing more exciting in the NBA. Honestly, in the NBA, NHL, even baseball, nothing more exciting than the Game 7. That's something that football doesn't have, and they can't really duplicate. We have Game 7 Sunday. Look, I started my podcast by saying the Thunder is the best team in the league, and I'm not going to jump off that. They are still the best team in the league, even though they don't play like that night in, night out. So I'm going to still go with the Thunder now in 7. So they didn't do it in 6, which is my prediction. So Thunder in 7. Shea is always going to be the MVP if they win. If the Pacers win, Tyrese is going to be mad, but the MVP has got to be Halliburton. The MVP has got to be Siakam. It's going to be Pete Skills. So Halliburton will be mad about that. But when you look at consistency play over the finals, the Pacers win. Pete Skills, Pascal Siakam will be the MVP. So, but on a broader note, when we look at the NBA, what does a championship mean if the Pacers or Thunder win it? And I think it's a changing of a guard. I think this is that transitional phase that we've been kind of waiting on. This is the phase where we transition out of the Steph, LeBron, KD era. Now, with that said, with some moves that may happen, if Kevin Durant goes to Houston, we may see another final to Kevin Durant in it. But right now, this feels more like a changing of the guard. This feels more of a, hey, people who like basketball, I want you to get to know these people. This is Pascal Siakam. This is Tyrese Halliburton. This is SGA. This is Jalen Williams. And these are these new people, new personalities that we're getting to know. And even though ESPN is doing the worst job on earth, just kind of making this, making you feel like you know these guys, I still think that this is still a true changing of the guard, and that's what I'm excited about. So, as we transition, Adam Silver is going to have to do a better job of marketing the stars on every team. I know the Lakers somehow weaseled their way back into the news during the finals by having that massive sale But he has to understand that basketball exists in more places than Miami, New York, and LA. And he has to pay attention to the Oklahoma City, the Pacers. We have to have these teams on TV. And that's what I hope that will be his takeaway, is that, okay, we can't listen because it's a ratings thing. And yes, we know the Lakers are always going to have ratings. We know Denver is probably a ratings boom because of Joker. But we have to figure out a way to get teams like the Pacers, who may not look great in a regular season, but could possibly make a run. I mean, I would listen, less Miami. I feel like Miami all the time. Less Miami, more Indiana, more Houston, more Detroit, more of these teams. I mean, more Dallas, please, more Dallas. I mean, I know next year their first half is gonna be sketchy. So post All-Star break boom of Dallas, and hopefully the return of Kyrie and a healthy AD and Cooper Flag. But we have to have more diversity in the television schedule, because I feel like that's how you get to know these new stars. That's how these new players are going to become stars, by having them on TV, having them on those Saturday night games on ABC when that comes up. So definitely on NBC, since NBC is also taking over the contract next year. So hopefully we're going to see more. We're going to see more time for these other teams on TV. And I think that's hopefully what we get out of this playoffs and these finals, of that these teams, these small market teams, need more attention on TV so the fans can truly get to know them. So I want to move on to my last topic. This is going to be a short show since I'm solo, but I'm going to move on to my last topic. This podcast is mainly basketball focused, but I'm a music fan, so I'm always going to find a way to put music and have music involved. And man, the Clipse are back, and I could not be more happy. Like, this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about when we talk about quote unquote real hip hop. It's not about the cliche, oh, you want the boom. No, we're talking about people who care about the art, who curate, and that's going to be a big buzzword, who curate the art. I love the way how Pusha and Malice and their rollout has been like, look, this is about taste levels. And I think that is so apropos about how this rollout is happening, is that, look, we've gotten so confused of who the cool kids are. Okay. And I think that's why we have streamers being put in these positions where they're a part of these iconic moments or expected to be purveyors of the culture. There's nothing wrong with streamers. Like it's not, but they're not the culture. Like Kai Cenat not knowing Wale shouldn't be a big deal, but because he's Kai Cenat and because he's black and because Wale has made hits, it made it a thing. I would not expect Kai Cenat to know who Wale is, not just because of the age gap, but because of Kai Cenat is taking me as someone who loves music like that. He takes me, he's a guy who plays video games, and because of his popularity, his circle has included people who make music. But he is not a guy that I would ever think about going to for music opinions, because he probably listens to top 20, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the fact that he is kind of a purveyor of the culture, that's kind of the thing, is like there is different taste levels, and it is not that he's a bad case. It's the fact that he doesn't understand. He's not when it comes to this music thing, he's not intertwined. There's not a deep love for it. He has a deep love for gaming, and he gives us the in and outs of everything like that, and a deep love for streaming. But he doesn't have that deep passion for music. He doesn't have the deep passion for comedy. Kevin Hart's putting him up front and being comedic. He doesn't have that. He can't tell you who Red Fox was. Not that I expect him to know, but I'm using it as an example of, you can't have these people being at the forefront of these genres, of these art movements, and when they don't understand the history, don't have any appreciation. But back to the Clipse. Pusha and Malice, the brothers Thornton, are back. They gave us Ace Trumpets a couple weeks ago. Brilliant. Then it rolled up with So Be It. And so I know the big thing has been, Pusha T is dissing Travis Scott. But I want to look past the surface of him dissing Travis Scott. Push is looking, I think for people of Push's age, me and him are pretty close in age, is that we're what we expect of either friends or acquaintances is consistency. If you're my guy on Monday, then I don't want to see you not be my guy on Wednesday, because that's weird. You know, that's not how we were raised. If we cool, we're cool. If we're not, we're not. And that's not saying that we can never not be cool again, but you don't hang out with the people who you know I don't like when you were just with me a few days ago. And that's kind of a code that we've almost forgotten now, because everyone is too busy clout chasing, trying to be famous, trying to do all these other things. And so they will go and make that choice of, I am going to be friends with my friend's enemy just because I need a leg up in this. And there's reports that say that Travis Scott has always been like that. He's an opportunist. And it's worked for him. And there is nothing wrong with that. But when you're in Generation X and you've been raised a certain way, there's just certain morals and codes that we just don't abide by. And that's one of those things. It is not about violence, not about fighting, not about beef, just about, it's about how you roll with friendship. If we're friends, we are friends. The reason why when we hear a Mobb Deep song and it says, an eye for an eye, your beef is mine, is because that's how we've grown up as friends. So if you don't like this person, or the kids say, if they're your op, I'm not going to go hang with them. And I think they would look at me crazy if they saw me over there. So what we're seeing is just Pusha just bringing his values to the forefront. And something else I want to speak on. People who don't listen to the Clipse, don't listen to Pusha T rap, stop talking about it. The absurdity to think this man raps about cocaine and drugs in every single line is ridiculous. I watched some of the reactions of So Be It, and they're like, waiting for the drug line. There were like 3 drug lines. 3. So for a person who always raps about drugs or whatever, that doesn't equate. See, Pusha has been, I would say, lifestyle rap for, I would say, the last 2 projects. I think till his the last one, the last project was a little bit more drug, I guess, themed. Because I think that's what he was going for. But Daytona was way definitely lifestyle. The second album was definitely just dark. It wasn't drugs. It was violent. It was revenge, And the first album was more of this is an introduction. And yes, I sold drugs a lot, but this is who Pusha T is. But every album, he's had a song where it's introspective or something he's thinking. So every song isn't drugs, drugs, drugs. Like if anyone heard Freedom from Till the Casket Drops, would absolutely, their heads would blow off. Their heads would pop off their body. And Push even said it to close the rhyme. He said, my critics finally have a verse of mine to jerk off to. Because they've been wanting to hear him being introspective, and he did it. And they still ignored it. And they still say, he doesn't talk about drugs. So again, it goes back to people of the culture. Me and my friend, we had this argument of who has access to the culture, who should be a part of the culture, and kind of where to stop, and what, how does that work in the new world? And, and I don't think it's a clear answer. I just feel that the people who are purveyors of the culture, who take part in the culture, who have a love for the culture, I think they should be able to do it freely. I think if possible, profit off of it. Since carpetbaggers have been doing it for the past, since carpetbaggers have been doing it since its inception. So of course, yeah. But the great thing is that we have great music coming back this summer. So Be It is a phenomenal song. No Malice's verse is crazy. is insane. I mean, Push Us is Push thing in that first verse. Just the layers of how he raps. Like that whole verse is just like, look, man, I have taste. My tastes are expensive. And I'm not only going to say that my tastes are expensive, I'm going to say it in such a cool way that you're going to love it, whether you can afford it or not. And that's what he's been great at. Rick Ross is great at that also. 2 Chainz also great at doing that. Great at purveying high taste levels were not being too obvious. You know, I think Jay-Z was at the forefront of that. You know, Jay-Z was never one to say, hey, my car costs $1 million. He would be like, my car is worth your house, which is a cool way of saying that, yeah, my car is pretty expensive. And that's art, that's being artistic, being creative. And that's what makes the Clipse so amazing. And that's why I am very excited for the new album Let God Sort Him Out. So with that said, this is episode 15 from A Tribe Called Swish. Thank you for rocking with me. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll be back next week with some more music and basketball takes. Peace. Sure. One. It's